Hello whiskey lovers, and welcome to another one of Mark's Whiskey Ramblings. Today I'm actually coming from the garden of a friend. I'm here in Grimbergen at my friend Mark, who actually introduced me to beer. But that's a whole other story. I'm not here to talk to you about beer. Today is actually quite a proud moment for me, because today I would like to introduce you to a very special Australian whiskey. And it's a Starward. Now, let me begin at the beginning. In October last year, October 2021, my friend Jeroen, who owns the Dram, an online whiskey shop, he came to me with a sample of Starward, the Australian single malt from Melbourne. And it was a 5 years old Apera cask. Apera is actually a sherry cask, and but they can't call it sherry because obviously sherry has to come from Jerez de la Frontera in Spain, so they couldn't call it sherry. They had to think of another name for their fortified wine, which is sherry. So they came up with Apera, which is basically wordplay on apero, you know, aperitif. Anyway, they have these Apera casks, and we tried a sample from a 2016 Starward that matured for 5 years on this Apera cask. And he allowed me to try it, and I was immediately sold. I was immediately in love with this single malt, not only because of the quality of the malt, but I'll be honest, I have a bit of a soft spot for Starward, not to be confused with my favorite sci-fi trilogy. I have a soft spot for Starward since the very beginning. You will remember, or maybe not, that we wrote a book called Whisky voor iedereen, which basically translates into Whiskey is for everyone. It's in Dutch. It's a book that I wrote together with Nick and Ilse, two of my globe-trotting friends, and they actually visited Starward at the very beginning. David Vitale, the owner, the founder of the Starward distillery, he did not even have any single malt at that time because his casks had been sleeping for 1 and 2 years only, not yet 3 years, so it was not yet whiskey. Now they were there to interview him for the book that we wrote, and they fell in love with it, and they brought back samples as well. And when their first single malt was released, we made sure that it was almost a military operation that we actually got the bottles in Belgium. Nowadays they even have an importer in Belgium as well. So hey, what's not to like? Starward has literally grown quite a bit in the past decade, to say the least. But so I got this opportunity to try this Apera cask, a 5 years old 2016 single malt from Melbourne, and I immediately felt this was like Melbourne malty magic. And Jeroen from the Dram, my partner in crime in this case, he said, well, I'm thinking about bottling this for the Dram, but I need a partner. Who do you think would be interested? And I was like, Jeroen, is that a trick question? I am interested. And so we decided to co-share this single cask, which yielded actually 222 bottles, which by coincidence is actually the house number of the people living here. They live in number 222. Well, it doesn't mean a thing, but it's kind of like it's serendipity. Anyway, this single barrel yielded 222 bottles of this 5 years old single barrel Australian single malt. Wow. Okay. All right. I know. I'm a bit over enthusiastic, but then again, this is a very proud moment because, well, it's not every day that I bottle a single cask myself, right? And now here I have one, which is quite special because, again, Australian single malt is not something you come across every day, and this is quite good. Allow me to explain why. Right. So this is a single malt from Australia, an Apera cask, and this is bottled at 53.9% sorry, what am I saying? No. 59.3% ABV. 59.3% ABV. And the funny thing is, when we tried this sample in October last year, it was actually 57.1% ABV. How does that happen? Well, in Melbourne, the summers are so hot, the humidity is so low, the climate's so dry that it actually loses water, which means that the alcohol content increases. So from 57.1 to 59.3% in just a few months. 3 months of maturation in Australia is comparable to 1 year in Scotland. There you have it. So this is one I have, and this single cask yielded 222 bottles, like I said. A beautiful Oh, this is a deep amber, almost coppery color indeed. The Starward 2016 for wv.be, my personal blog, on the nose. Starward's DNA is unmistakable, but it's complemented with a very active Apera cask. I get cherries and dry wood. I get some herbal notes in there. And that is all counterfeited by this sweetness coming from raisins, pineapple on the barbecue, some banana, dried banana in fact, and something of, cake on a Sunday morning. Buttered toast with a hint of milk chocolate with almonds, raisin bread. Oh, this is so complex, so broad, and so absolutely delicious on the palate. It's very oily and mouth coating. Now the fruit evolves from the dried to the tropical, with a heart-warming spiciness from the oak. It absolutely does not need water, but as you can see, I have put some water on the table. There's a reason for that, bear with me. But it does not really need it. This is eminently quaffable, even at 59.3% ABV. It's a perfect integration of alcohol, and mid-palate, I get some overripe cherries and raisins on the finish. That finish is long, spicy, tropical again, all these tropical notes, it's so beautiful. And then sweet at the same time, with a slightly drying effect towards the death. Oh my, this is divinely delicious. So you will forgive me for being so lyrical about this, but it's an absolutely stunning whiskey. But got plenty of those to go around. We've got 222 bottles, so no need to be shy here. Let's add another bit to our glass, because I would also like to tell you what it tastes like when you add a bit of water, because it can actually take a bit of water. It's what we call a swimmer, and if you add a bit of water so diluting it to maybe like 57, something like that, it actually becomes even more fruity on the nose. Now it's all about pineapple and banana. It's even more tropical, so the nose actually opens up when you add a bit of water, so you do get some bang for your buck. But the DNA, the typical DNA of the Starward single malt, actually remains intact. Becomes even more fruity than at cask strength. A bit more accessible, less spicy, more sweetness, liquid dessert pur sang. This is quite, this is so satisfying. And on the finish, less drying than undiluted. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I actually prefer it with just a tiny bit of water. Not too much, don't overdo it. You don't want to dilute your whiskey too much, but this one actually takes water very well. It becomes even more sweet, more tropical, more fruity, more dessert-like, and absolutely delicious. Well, you have to forgive me once more, but it doesn't happen that often that I actually bottle a cask myself. In this case, together with my good friend Jeroen from Ghent, who owns the Dram online whiskey shop. And together we now possess 222 bottles of this beautiful, beautiful whiskey. And we had to wait for a long time. I will have you know that the boat actually left Melbourne on the 3rd of March, and it took over 2 months to actually arrive in Europe, in Rotterdam harbour. And then again, almost a month before finally these beauties reached me. But now it is finally here, it is finally available. The Starward, 5 years old, 2016 Apera cask at cask strength of 59.3% ABV, and it's an absolute stunner. And I like it, and I hope you will like it too. And that, my friends, is all for this Whiskey Rambling, and I hope to see you at one of Mark's Whiskey Ramblings real soon. And until then, may the malt be with you. Bye-bye.